Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of What If? It's Matt.
And it's Zach.
If you have not joined us for one of these episodes before, we take a look at different scenarios throughout music and wonder, well, what if this happened instead of that? For example, our last episode we did What If Green Day Never Released American Idiot? If you want more information on that, go listen to our other episode. But in this episode, we're going to be talking about a little band by the name of Led Zeppelin. And there was massive talks around the internet in the late 2000s because they did the unthinkable. They got back together, played one little show, and Zach will tell you the rest.
Almost 16 years ago, when they disbanded after John Bonham passed away, they tried at least twice to do a short-lived kind of like one-off reunion with Jason Bonham filling in or with Live Aid, Phil Collins filling in. And of course, those instances, when they happened in the 80s, failed miserably to the point that in the 90s, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page just dedicated to just touring either as their own solo stuff or together, excluding John Paul Jones for whatever reason. Well, in 2007, in tribute to the late Atlantic Records founder, who passed away a few months before that, they reunited with Jason Bonham, filling in on drums again. The three original members and Jason Bonham doing a full, not just a few songs, a full Led Zeppelin concert, making it the most highly demanded ticket in the world at the time. And then, of course, that spurred lots of momentum. A lot of fans going, oh my God, they did a full show. They sounded amazing. We got to see more. We got to see more. And even Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones and Jason Bonham like, yeah, this is great. This is great. We got to do more. We got to do more. But Robert Plant was like, I'm going to tour of Alison Krauss instead. I wanted to do that. I talked to her already about that. I'm going to do that. But, maybe we'll, revisit this later. To which everyone, including the three other members, went, what the hell? So what ended up happening was never something that was actually officially announced. Throughout the year 2008, little murmurs came out that Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Jason Bonham were auditioning singers. It was never confirmed whether or not they were actually thinking of reforming Led Zeppelin without Robert Plant, or they were just going to do a new band that, of course, was going to play a ton of Led Zeppelin covers. The three members actually never even really commented on it. At least as far as I remember, never even to this day have really fully said what they were intending to do. Jason Bonham kind of tiptoes around it still. Back in 2008, 2009, a little band called Creed reunited with Scott. And when people kept pressing Mark Tremonti, he's like, Creed's coming back? What about Alter Bridge? Like, what's going on here? Mark Tremonti kind of let it slip. It's like, well, Myles is jamming with Led Zeppelin right now, so he's busy. And everyone was like, wait, what? What are you talking? Like, it just seemed so bizarre. And sure enough, it turned out that Myles Kennedy was indeed, at least for a few weeks, maybe, it's really unclear how long exactly, but he was actually rehearsing and playing some Led Zeppelin songs in a rehearsal space in England with Led Zeppelin. And to this day, there's really only two singers that we know about that definitely were in the same room as those three Led Zeppelin members jamming on something. Myles Kennedy, who's confirmed it in a few different interviews, and he's even said that, like, from his understanding, they weren't really looking to, like, necessarily reform Led Zeppelin, but they were looking to do some sort of project, and we jammed on a lot of Led Zeppelin songs, and it was amazing. It was a highlight, and I even got offered a gig, but months went on, and Led Zeppelin management said, nah, it ain't happening. And the other singer was Steven Tyler, which made people go, wait, what the heck? And depending on who you ask, according to Steven, it was amazing. It went great. And Jimmy Page offered him a gig to do stadiums. And he was like, nah, I'm going to focus on Aerosmith. But Joe Perry was like, nah, I talked to the management. It did not go well. Everyone was scratching their heads at how terrible he was in rehearsals, and none of them wanted to be there with him. So those are the only two singers that were at least confirmed to have auditioned for whatever this was going to be. Something fell apart and nothing happened. To this day, many people wonder, like, who else was there? Ann Wilson from Heart confirmed that she had offered to audition, but was turned down, which I think if anyone's watched Kennedy Center Honors that they did on Led Zeppelin where Heart performed Stairway to Heaven, I think everyone was like, yeah, Jimmy Page messed up. Ann Wilson would have been freaking incredible in that gig. it's still a lot of mystery really is around this project. A lot of mystery even as to what the real intentions were. Like I said, according to Steven and Myles, the intention wasn't really to quote unquote reform Led Zeppelin, but it's unclear if, maybe they were just testing the water to see if maybe they could continue on as Led Zeppelin without Robert Plant. It's possible that they were really just kind of auditioning a bunch of singers and hope that Robert Plant would be like, oh, I need to get my act together. They're going to do something without me. And Robert Plant called their bluff and nothing happened. But it makes you wonder, Matt, what if Led Zeppelin moved on from Robert Plant? What if they did reform without him in 2008? And that's why we're here.
So the most obvious answer, and I'm going to put it out there for everybody, is despite who they got, nobody would have ever lived up to the expectation. Nobody.
Yeah.
There's only a few bands out there where there's really questions about, could you ever really replace this musician? One of them is Queen, and I'll use them as an example in a little bit. And two is Led Zeppelin. And the mystique around Led Zeppelin and the way that people hold them as the ultimate rock gods. When you look for a band that everybody strives to want to be, it's almost unheard of to have a band, unless it's like an authorized Led Zeppelin thing, cover Led Zeppelin because they're so coveted, and nobody could ever be as great as Led Zeppelin ever was. And I think if they went down the road of finding a new singer, it probably would have been around the same reception as what Queen did with Paul Rodgers. Not to say that, Paul Rodgers was the greatest fit for Queen, but I don't think anybody could ever be a great fit for Zeppelin because Robert Plant is stupidly unique. And anybody who tries to emulate Plant is going to fall short. And I think, just seeing whoever it is step in and just do their thing, even if, for Queen and Adam Lambert now, Adam Lambert stepped in, does his own thing, and it's actually pretty well received. I don't think you could ever find somebody like that now.
No, and also let's be also honest. That's a glorified tribute concert.
It is.
They're not even trying to do new music. It's just for those who didn't get to see Freddie or want to relive a little bit of that glory. It's the next best thing.
Right, but I will say this: that Queen did try to do the new music thing with Paul Rodgers, and that was terrible. Terrible. Now, there is one band that's out there now that people could say, well, you compare to them all the time. Why don't you just say it? It's Greta Van Fleet. However, if they're trying to distance themselves away from Led Zeppelin, and let's just say that something happened to pop up where this whole project came about now, I think people would immediately put two and two together, and they would never be able to break those two bands apart ever again.
I also think and maybe this is also why it ended up falling through, is that the only way that any project, it doesn't matter how good of a singer they would have been able to find, the only way that this project could have been even remotely not criticized as just a glorified cover band was to be its own name band that would maybe occasionally play a Led Zeppelin cover here and there, but create their own original music. And there's no way that would have even captured as much of an audience as Led Zeppelin, even without Plant. I think while John Paul Jones and Jason Bonham, I think, were eager to just play again, and no matter what the size of the venue was, I mean, I think even a year later, John Paul Jones came with Lemp Crooked Vultures with Josh Holmes and Dave Grohl. Actually, that's another probably pro as to why it's a good thing that this Led Zeppelin Fox never happened, because we would have probably been depraved of Lemp Crooked Vultures if John Paul Jones ended up doing this Jimmy Page led project. But and they started playing in just small theaters. I think Jimmy Page would have been like, oh, wait, we wouldn't be playing arenas. We'd be playing theaters. Yeah, I'm not going to get up for that. I'm not going to work more than 2 hours a day just for that. Which kind of leads me to a hot take. I don't think, at least Jimmy Page, maybe Jason and John Paul Jones were definitely like on board to do whatever, but I don't think Jimmy Page ever actually intended to form either a new group or a new version of Led Zeppelin. I think he only did these auditions or tested out these singers in hopes of, I don't want to say tricking Robert Plant to get back, or to convince Robert Plant that, oh, I should get back with the boys and do a full Led Zeppelin reunion tour. I think this was Jimmy Page trying to make Robert jealous. In fact, even Robert Plant was like, listen, I told the guys, just give me a little time. I'll come back. The one-off reunion show piqued my interest, but I want to do this tour of Allison. And he's even admitted that, like, yeah, and then Jimmy used that against me and made me feel guilty about it. And now we're not doing a reunion tour at all. It's like, oh, that kind of backfired, because if they did just wait, we might have gotten more Robert Plant shows or more Led Zeppelin shows.
I don't think
Maybe,
so.
but I don't think Jimmy Page ever intended to perform with Jason and John Paul Jones with a new singer. I think he was holding out for Robert Plant. And then the second he realized, oh, this isn't working, he gave up.
I don't think so. I think Robert Plant was, and I'm not saying this in any other way other than just trying to make a point, that Robert Plant was too far in bed with Alison Krauss, and he's done multiple projects with her and gone on tour multiple times with her. So I don't think that him saying that is a genuine thing. I think he's just saying that for the shock value, like, oh, I might have if Jimmy wasn't being such an asshole. Maybe. And he's even said it in the past that he didn't want Zeppelin to become a nostalgic act, and there had to be a time when they said, that's it, because we just can't do it the way we used to do it anymore. And I think him following through with those words makes it the best reason why he didn't do it.
Are you glad they didn't do more than just the show in 2007?
It depends, right? Like how soon after, if they did it in 2008 and 2009, I'd say it's a bad thing that they didn't do it, because the Celebration Day album actually sounded pretty good. But
even the footage that they released was phenomenal, like right after that concert.
So that was pretty good. But if they went on like 2016 and 2017 and 2018, I would say, I don't know. You know, I understand why Robert Plant said what he said and why he feels the way he feels, because let's face it, if you can't do it the way that it's meant to be done, should you be doing it at all? Or is it, you know, it's the eternal question, is it better to burn out or to fade away? And I think in his instance, it's better to fade away. So I would say if it can't be the Zeppelin that you want it to be, don't do it. And don't tarnish the legacy.
He's still touring. So yes, I know it's solo, but he's like, with his solo band, he sounds pretty damn good.
Yeah, but it's not Zeppelin. It's him. So I think that's why it's acceptable in his mind, because it's just him.
I mean, I'm sure that's why it's acceptable in his mind, but it does make you wonder, man, maybe they still at least one more show right now. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to them doing another show right now. But with that in mind, so going back to the scenario of what if they did either reform Led Zeppelin or formed a new group, let's call it the Led Zeppelin cover band, essentially, with a new singer. Well, first off, that's funny that even Steven Tyler got in the same room as them. Myles Kennedy. Today, Myles Kennedy sounds like that would have been an awesome pick. But I do actually wonder, I think in 2008, you got to remember that Alter Bridge, it took them a while to get a lot of people's respect. It took them a while for a lot of people to forget that Creed was Creed and that the rest of the band was from Creed. And I almost do wonder if in 2008, it would have been the same kind of reception that Jimmy Page got from doing an album with David Coverdale. and that you would think that Coverdale and Page would have been like received with open arms, but because it happened so soon after Here I Go Again on My Own, and Whitesnake was kind of lumped in with the hair metal stuff, that people just frowned upon it and thought it was a mismatch. When really, that's the singer of Deep Purple and guitars from Led Zeppelin doing a band together. No, that should be a fucking dream. I almost wonder if that in 2008, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Jason Bonham would have had a rough time convincing critics that the singer of Alter Bridge is the right guy to form a new band with, even though talent-wise, hell yeah, he is. What do you think about Led Zeppelin and Myles Kennedy? Do you think they could have had a chance?
No, I'm going to stick by my guns. Anybody who you put in that role is going to fail.
Even if it was a new band, even if it was, they called it No Quarter, or they called it the Immigrant Song, like if they called it any other new band name, do you think they could have had some sort of success? Or the Zeppelin shadow was too strong for them to ever escape it?
No, it's too strong. Because if you're calling yourself a tribute band to Led Zeppelin and you are two of the original members, the son of the third member, and a new singer, I don't think so. I think what Jason Bonham, I believe he did a tour on his own just tributing.
Oh, he's
Led
still
Zeppelin.
doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what he does now, is that a tribute Led Zeppelin tour.
And that, I think, is the best way to honor Zeppelin, is to have the son of one of the members, almost in remembrance of his father, doing it. And I think that's the right way to do it, because if you did it the other way, it's just my opinion, it's not going to come off as, oh, this is Black Dog, the tribute to Led Zeppelin featuring Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones.
Come off as
and
too desperate is what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's like, guys, really, you're just doing Zeppelin without Plant. So,
is there any singer, though, you would have loved to have seen them try to do a supergroup with?
To try?
Like, even if it was just for a few shows, just to be like, you know what? They're going to do a few Led Zeppelin songs and a few songs from the singer's catalog.
I'll give you a real hot take. Bruce Dickinson.
That could have been interesting. I mean, he's got the vocal chops to definitely pull it off. What makes you like that? Why does that name come to your head immediately?
The dramatics, the theatrics, and the range. He's got one of those voices that he can pull off some very theatrical songs, and he's got that from very low to very high that Plant does, and I think he can get into it when he really needs to. I think he could be a very interesting choice. Also, Rob Halford could be another interesting choice. As far as anybody new, I don't think I could find anybody new.
So in the first episode of What If, you critiqued me for suggesting that Chris Cornell singing for Van Halen could have been interesting. I would actually say Chris Cornell singing for Led Zeppelin really could have been interesting. And you've got to admit that would have been a decent fit. Like, first off, hearing Led Zeppelin cover Spoon Man would have been fun. But, like, I feel like Chris Cornell's vocal, I mean, listen, there's even some people comparing Chris Cornell to a Robert Plant-esque kind of figure on stage, the mystique.
Who are those people?
In the early 90s. There's a lot of people. Anyway.
I would love to meet those people and hear what they have to say.
But I feel like he would have been a cool fit for Les. Like, hearing him sing Stairway to Heaven would have been pretty freaking awesome.
I mean, is there any band that you don't think that Chris Cornell would fit in?
Fair. I also feel like... but I would stand by I think Led Zeppelin would have been a cool fit. But I also think, granted, we kind of got to see it because when Foo Fighters performed at Wembley Stadium, Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones actually joined them on stage to do Ramble On and Rock and Roll. And while not that Dave Grohl's voice, I love Dave Grohl and I love him as a frontman, he might not necessarily be as strong of a vocalist as Robert Plant, but I think he could have at least had fun singing with the Led Zeppelin guys.
Oh, he could absolutely have fun
Like
doing
that.
it. Anybody could.
And that would have been a lot of fun to see too. Because he probably would have brought out a little bit more of while Robert Plant was all about kind of being a larger than life figure on stage, Grohl would have been like, no, let's just have fun with these songs. Let's just freaking rock out. Which is why, going back to the Queen aspect, which is kind of why when Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins inducted Queen into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2000, around that time, and they performed Tie Your Mother Down with the surviving members, why Dave Grohl singing that song was actually the best tribute they could have done, because it wasn't someone trying to be Freddie Mercury on stage. It was just Dave Grohl being Dave Grohl, having fun singing one of his favorite songs. And I think Dave Grohl, I think if any singer was going to kind of come in to play a show with those three guys, it would have to be the approach of, hey, I'm not trying to recapture what Robert Plant did on stage. I'm not even going to try to out-sing Robert Plant. I'm going to literally come in here and just wail and have fun with the fact that, and just enjoy the fact that I'm playing with some rock gods on stage and just be me while singing these songs. And Dave Grohl is such a confident performer that I think him rocking, it's funny because, like, of course, everyone would be like, oh, Dave Grohl, of course he'd be the drummer of Led Zeppelin if they were reunited. It's like, no, let's actually see what he would do as the singer of a project with Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and Jason Bonham. We kind of got that with them Crooked Vultures, but of course he was the drummer, and Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age was the singer in that group. That could have also been a lot of fun. Josh from Queens of the Stone Age and them Crooked Vultures, rocking out with Led Zeppelin. Probably would have gone in an interesting, weird Cream more direction, and you could argue that that's what them Crooked Vultures ended up really being.
I don't know. I'm in that camp too of, you've got to be very specific for Zeppelin. Like there's no way around it.
I think it depends on what their intentions are. If it's just trying to have fun with those songs and maybe do a few new songs and you're not calling it Led Zeppelin, you know what? I'll throw in a new name. This is actually someone, and I know it's weird going back to the Soundgarden connection, but this is a singer who has been very vocal about how they would actually love to be Soundgarden's new singer in a respectful new way. And you listen to her records, and even though she's actually a country Americana artist, there's definitely a rock-inspired aspect to her music. Brandi Carlile, who I just absolutely love and adore, I actually think she has such a powerful voice. Something about her singing Led Zeppelin songs I think could work really well, and I think she would approach it as a not trying to just replicate it for the sake of replicating it, but bring her own style while still being respectful of the music. I would say, because I was thinking, oh, it really would have been amazing of Ann Wilson, but maybe she would have been almost a little too on the nose with the Robert Plant power vocals. I would love to hear Brandi Carlile sing of the surviving members of Led Zeppelin.
So let's think of it this way then. If you had to pick somebody to do Zeppelin and make it sound like Zeppelin, who would it be?
And make it sound like Zeppelin, or just...
No. So there's the sound, make Zeppelin sound like Zeppelin, which is, we're trying to honor Zeppelin like to the T because we're going out on tour as the new Led Zeppelin, quote unquote. And then if you were to do just a fun project that is honoring Led Zeppelin and having fun with the songs, who would that singer be?
You know what? For both, I would choose Brandi Carlile. I think her vocal range actually would fit perfectly with the band and do the songs justice. And I also think that she would approach it in a fun way that wouldn't make you think that she was just doing it for money. I think she's that talented a performer and an honest enough of a performer that you would appreciate what she's doing with Jimmy Page as a fan. I'm going to go with Brandi Carlile on that one. How about you?
To be a serious Zeppelin, I'm very particular, so I'm having a hard time with this one. I think you would have to go with like a Bruce Dickinson. And I think for having fun, this is going to be very boring, but you would have to have Dave Grohl. How do you not have Dave Grohl do it? Like Dave Grohl would, like he made the Bee Gees sound fun. I mean, come on.
give Bee Gees more credit. But anyway, that's for a different episode. Listen, I think, honestly, Dave Grohl could literally just fart into a microphone for a half an hour, and it would be the most fun experience ever. So yeah, of course, him playing with Led Zeppelin will be a crap ton of fun that anyone would want to watch. But we'll never know.
Maybe one day.
What say you, listeners? What do you think would have happened if Led Zeppelin, or Led Zeppelin sans Robert Plant, actually moved forward with a new singer? Would it have been received with arms wide open, or would it have been just a flat dud? Or are you glad it didn't happen? Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, formerly or now called X, Threads, Instagram, at Epic Footnote. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you hear a ton of episodes similar to this, including a past If You Have to Pick 3 episode where we name Led Zeppelin's best 3 songs not named Stereo to Heaven. And a major thank you to Lucky 13 Beard Co.
Log on to lucky13beardco.com. If you've ever wanted to try a beard balm or oil and you never could find the right product, they've got the right product for you. We've got our own beard oil with them. It's the Lemmy. It smells of bourbon, tobacco, cola, and leather. You're going to love it, and we're even giving you 10% off. That's how confident we are that you're going to love their products. So use the code EFP10 with anything in your cart, and you're going to get 10% off of your entire order. Lucky13, the number, beardco.com.
And if you want to support us so that we can keep doing episodes like this, go to the link in any of our social media pages, and you'll find a link to our merch site where you can buy t-shirts, coffee mugs, hats, hoodies with our cool little logo on it. It's a great way so that we can keep doing episodes like this, but also a way just to let your friends know, hey, I like this cool podcast hosted by 2 guys that like to talk about what-if scenarios in music. Thanks so much for listening, and we hope you join us for another episode.
It's been a long time since rock and roll.
We can't afford the rights to that, Matt.
I'll just ramble on.